Hello again, everyone. It is time for another episode of the Community Connection Show, the show that brings you positive stories and encouraging news as we interview top leaders in every sector of the community. And now, here is your host, national speaker and best-selling author, Ryan Sauers.
Welcome to another Community Connection Show with Ryan Sauers. I am super excited to have my friend and colleague, Jason Black, with us today. Jason, my friend, how are you?
Wonderful, Ryan. How are you, buddy?
Doing good. Doing real good. We got us recorded, so that's real positive. But for a lot of people, you do a ton of things, Jason, and I hold you in highest regard. But for people who don't even have a background, a little bit about you, you want to give them the 30-second overview?
Sure. I'm currently a practicing attorney, litigator. I own my own law firm, Weinstein Black. I'm one of the partners for our firm. And prior to that, I was in law enforcement for 14 years out in Jackson County. Worked for the City of Commerce for 11 and a half of those years. Decided to further my education and look for something to kind of grow my career. So I went back to law school, where I worked during the day. I was a detective and then went to law school at night for 4 years and ultimately passed the bar the first time, mind you, and have been practicing law for the last 8 years.
A little bit of that story, but that's not easy to do with kids and family and all that. That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely it was difficult. I did it with two young children at home. My wife held down the fort while I was running up and down the road going to law school. So
There's always some smart lady behind us that makes us look better, and your wife is
she is
amazing.
definitely a rock star, no doubt.
Absolutely. Now, remind us, where did you grow up? Did you grow up near this community, or were you in another part?
I grew up in Gwinnett County. I graduated from Tequila High School. I actually wound up moving to Commerce in Jackson County in 2003 when I bought a house at 19 and was really trying to kind of launch myself. And I didn't even know where Jackson County or Commerce was at the time because I grew up right around the Hamilton Mill area. And, you had the Mall of Georgia and everything else 30 seconds from your house, right? And so moving out here, it was a little bit of a culture shock, but undoubtedly this place has become my home and where I have my own business and raise my kids. And it's nice to live out in the country for sure.
So, this is interesting. I mean, just so people have a little background. So tell me a little bit about that journey and goes through your head every day, being from the police officer side to the attorney side. Because, I mean, I guess as attorney, you interact and see these police officers all day. I mean, that's a unique vantage point, I would think.
It is, law enforcement. I tell people, right, when you're an attorney, you're dealing with people's problems, no matter what kind of law you're practicing. And so I feel like I'm well equipped to be a good attorney because the 14 years that I was in law enforcement, I woke up every day and had problems to solve for the general public. And so sometimes you had 30 seconds to make that decision and problem solve. And sometimes you would have cases to work and issues to handle throughout weeks or months at a time. So, what I tell people is between the 14 years I was a police officer and 8 years I've been practicing law, I've been solving problems for 22 years. So it's a good thing to have. I look at problems a lot differently and think outside of the box a lot of times when you have complicated issues. So it's definitely a good trait to have.
Yeah, I can see that in you. So let's talk about, because I know Mike and great guy, but how about when you guys came together and started Weinstein Black? Just kind of so people have that background. Y'all have been rock stars, but I know you had to come up with an idea somewhere to do this.
Well, Mike actually reached out to me in 2020. He was looking to hire another lawyer, and he reached out to me and actually said, "Hey, Jason, you want to go to lunch?" And I had met Mike because we were against each other in a couple of cases. One in which we had a really, what I say is the longest landlord tenant trial in Georgia history. because they're normally like an hour, right, or 30 minutes. So we got to know each other in that case, and then we had a second case with one another, and so um, he was looking to expand his firm, and I was actually at the time looking to start my own firm. So we had lunch, and he asked me would I come work for him, and I said, well, only if we're going to be partners because I'm going to open my own shop. And I told him that it was going to be in Jefferson, Georgia, and he said, "Where in the crap is Jefferson, Georgia?" And so I drove him up here, and ever since then we've been rocking and rolling, and really have a really good thing going.
All the contact information, but I've gotten to see the growth, and it's darn impressive, man. You guys are both awesome guys. So, all right, so let's segue now. Now you were running, and we got an election, and we're doing a little getting it out there, and we may come back, circle back near to May next year. But what office? I'm going to ask you why you got into it, but what office have you put your hat in the ring for?
Yeah, I'm excited to say that I'm running for District 47 State Senate. Those counties that consist of the district are Madison County, Jackson, the majority of Jackson County, basically all of Jackson except Commerce, half of Barrow County, and a sliver of Clark County. So a big spread out district, but super excited to have announced. We've been on the campaign trail now going on, I think it's 7 weeks. And we've picked up a lot of momentum, and I'm really excited about what we're doing.
So you we were talking before you went on air. Now you mentioned was it your grandmother was in public service?
Yeah, my grandmother was in the Coast Guard, Auxiliary Coast Guard for 30 years. She actually met my grandfather in the Coast Guard because he was a commander. And she recently passed away this summer. But she served the Coast Guard for 30 years. They actually named the radio center after her when she retired. So pretty cool stuff down in Fort Myers, Florida.
Tell me about the thought process. Is public office something you kind of always had in the back of your mind, or did you just kind of come to this as you've evolved? Because I mean, I don't know. You might be running for president in 10 years. Where you're going?
You never know. You
I
never
know.
know, right? The way I am. But it's funny. So my campaign manager is also one of the law partners here at the firm, Dave McDonald. He and I went to law school together. We actually met the first day of law school. And he was working in Congress at the time while we were in law school, and worked for Doug Collins for a period of time. And I actually told him at some point, I said, you know what, if I'm gonna go through law school, I'm gonna run for office one day. And we kind of laughed about it, but I was being more serious than he was. And I said, but the only way I'm doing it is if you run my campaign. And so here we are. We're running a race, and he's the campaign manager, and we're having a lot of fun doing it.
Now, do you have to run? This is probably a silly question. Is there like a Democratic Republican kind of thing there, or how does that work in your type of race?
Yeah, so there's of course Democrats and Republicans, independents can all get in the race, right? We are actually running against a 16-year incumbent, and we've that's kind of why we've started running our race early, to get our name out, get name recognition, and get in front of as many people as we can. Um, this decision wasn't just a fly by night decision. We've been probably planning it for the better part of 6 or 8 months.
That's a lot of strategy, and that makes sense. Now I'm kind of thinking of it. I mean, half I would say so many people in politics had a law school background. So, and you've got the personality for it. I mean, I started seeing you have been really out a lot. I mean, you've been burning it all ends the last 6 weeks. But I've seen some endorsements, and some really nice endorsements I saw the other day on social media. So we talked about your law enforcement, and now you got a law background. I know you do different things in law. Now, how does this influence what my doctorate's in leadership, so I love talking about leadership. How does this
Yeah.
influence? Like, I see a lot of change I would love to make in the state of Georgia and around. I mean, we can talk about it. How does that kind of fuel you a little bit?
Well, I'm really excited about it, right? I mean, I got out of law enforcement not because I hated serving and being in law enforcement. I got out of law enforcement to really kind of better my family situation, provide better for my wife and my kids. And so the idea of getting back into public service, but yet still being able to work as an attorney and run my business and help the community all at the same time is really exciting to me and something, I've always felt, public service is really important to me, and we're involved in the community in a number of different ways. So being able to get into another leadership role, I mean, whether I was playing baseball or when I was in law enforcement and even now running my own business, I've always taken leadership roles, and being able to do this now at a state level and help the constituents of District 47, I'm really excited about it.
NBA leadership class tonight, so we can zoom you back in. Just kidding. No, that's fantastic. So let's talk a little bit though, Jason. We all tend to moan and groan on the sidelines, or many people do, talking about what they want to see in public, leadership, government, blah blah blah. But no one really actually does anything. I mean, they talk about it, they complain about it, but very few people throw their hat in the ring. I mean, so in your perfect world, we're going to fast forward and say you're the winner there in May 2026. I lay my wager with you. What do you hope to do? I mean, you're a relationship guy. I know that, but what is it you're saying? Hey, this is what I'm going to bring to the equation.
Well, you know what really kicked this off in full circle, right, is a lot of the local leaders, and I would say more than a handful of local leaders. And when I say local leaders, commissioners, council, men and women, mayors, uh, all have approached me with an issue that basically said we've got a state senator that we don't really have a good relationship with. And they're my friends, but and being involved in the community, that concerns me, right? I mean, we're Jackson County, which is part of the district, but Jackson County as a whole is now the fastest growing county in the state, one of the fastest in the country. And I own a business here. I live here. My family lives here. My friends live here. And so um, I guess I had a calling, right? I think God put it on my heart to say, you need to step up and this is the route you need to go. And really it was all perfect timing. And so we met with a lot of people. You talked about the endorsements. I actually have, I think, a new endorsement rolling out one every 2 or 3 days for the next, I think, 30 or 40 days. So we've got a number of endorsements throughout the district that we're excited to announce and show that I'm reliable and I'm a good leader and I can serve the constituents. But ultimately I want to facilitate those relationships and then be present, right? And listen to the community. I think politicians, right? People are already saying, "Oh, what got you into politics?" And I don't want to. Inevitably, I would be a politician when I win, right? But what I want to make sure that we do is listen more than we talk. I think politicians talk more than they listen, and then they don't do what needs to be done for their people. And I take that seriously. And really, I've been around going to all these events, listening more than I'm talking, in a lot of respects. So I know what the heartbeat is around the district.
Love it too. So as you've been listening, and again, in this show, we're not going to get into, anything about opponents, whatever. It's about you and your lane. And, I feel strongly knowing the person you are. I'm just saying that's why I wanted to have you on here. You're going to end up where you want to be. But are you hearing any common themes? Are you hearing any different themes? And what are you hearing out there as you're listening?
Well, look, I mean, I think different groups of the community all have different issues and concerns, right? I think one of the biggest things that people have right now is school safety. We live in part of my district being in Barrow County. We had the tragic event at Appalachia a little over a year ago now, and I think that's in everybody's forefront to make sure that never happens again. Um, Supporting our local law enforcement and public safety and looking at ways that we can provide them more resources we have a huge issue, not only probably locally, but state and federally, trying to recruit and bring in people to serve in law enforcement anymore. And it's because they've been bastardized in the news, and people aren't really willing to serve in those positions anymore. So we've got to do some things to make it more appealing, and try to work on retirement and benefits and things of that nature at a state level that may take off of the local area, and maybe even and provide them more money to be able to pay these men and women to serve the streets. And then, of course, supporting our local businesses. I think the small business owner is what runs this country. I know big corporations pay the most, but small businesses, and being small communities, we take care of each other, trying to make sure that we protect them, keep the regulation down on them and the red tape and things of that nature, and looking for any way we can save people taxes.
I'm sitting there thinking, one little fact. I don't even know. 99. I learned this PhD route. 99.99% of all businesses in the U.S. being 500 or less people, small business, are small businesses. So
Yes.
what you're talking about. I mean, the statistic, when you say that, I had to have it drilled in my head, probably like your bar exam. But it was drilled in my head, and you think of like Home Depot and Co. Well, that's great, but most are smaller businesses, and
Yep.
most 50% don't make it to the 5 year mark. So you wear that hat, and then you wear the law enforcement hat, and you're correct. I mean, I'm not going to comment on it, but I can imagine what people might face going into that. Just going on, what am I signing up for here? Because I can't win. And then, now you get your attorney hat, you've got your community, supporter hat. Well, the more I listen to you, you are the right guy. I mean, seriously.
Well, thank you.
Um, no, I mean, it's a very unique perspective. I mean, and everybody walks, I always say, everybody has a story. I don't know your story, you don't know, but the story you've walked really puts you in a unique vantage point to talk to a business person, to talk to a law enforcement person, to talk to attorneys and other people, and then all the people around it to say, what's going on?
Yeah.
What are the pain points? So that just came to me as you were talking. So you've been out. Let's see what else. All right. So in the local landscape, what is what most people don't understand in terms of the office you're running for? In other words, they get U.S. senator and state senator, and I know you meet for a certain number of days and this and that, but how long the term is? How does it work? Just for the lay person.
So, it's funny you should ask that. I don't know how many times in the last 7 weeks people have asked me if I'm running against John Ossoff.
We're
And I'm
recording it
like,
right here.
yeah, and I said, no, that's Mr. Collins and Mr. Dooley that are hashing it out for that right now. And I think that's the biggest thing. A lot of people don't realize that we have 56 state senators, 56 districts. Just like we have and our state government is very similar to that of the federal government. We have a governor that really is the president of the state. And then we have a state house and a Senate side of the state legislature. And both sides have their purposes and their tasks, and work on bills and presenting different laws that need to be addressed throughout the state, for issues that have to be dealt with throughout the state. But I think the biggest thing is educating people on, that we have state senators. It's amazing to me how many people don't even know that. But also, trying to get people excited about this, right? I mean, when you have people that just stay in office for so long, it just becomes a click of a box when you go to the ballot, right? And sometimes I think we become numb to that. And honestly, as a conservative, I think we have to get more excited about what we're doing and how we're putting ourselves out in the public. But even more so, even though it's very sad what happened to Charlie Kirk, we have a lot of really young people and a lot of this stir in the country and even in the state that says it's time to get some young people in office, and use their bright brains and their problem solving skills to maybe make a difference. And I'm hoping that I can take that to the state and do that for our district.
Glad I could ask a question you've been asked, because if I asked it, I figured somebody else would probably ask you. So when you think about all this stuff, regardless of how this, what about your kids? Your kids are old enough to know what you're doing, but your kids or wife or whatever when you sat down and they say, why are you decided to do this? You transitioned and you went to law school, then you opened your own thing, or but not that they didn't support you. I know they're your biggest fans, but how do you tell them like this is my why, my WHY, what I want to do to make a difference?
Well, I think my why is I want to make my community the best it can be. And that's when I served in law enforcement, I worked very hard in all the tasks and the jobs that I did in law enforcement to make that community that I served, the city of Commerce, the best it could be. And this is another opportunity for me to step in a role and not only touch a city, but touch 4 counties and a wide array of people to really lay my mark in history, right? And inevitably, it would lead to a legacy kind of situation, right? I mean, that's just something that in the back of your mind, it's kind of a cool something to think about. Um, but it's ultimately leading my family and leading my kids and showing them I'm the first one in my family to graduate college, let alone go to graduate school or own a business. So to show my kids that I went from, just graduating high school and not really knowing what I wanted to be when I grew up to potentially a state senator, I want them to see that whatever they put their mind to and however hard they work, they can accomplish whatever they want. And I hope people in the community see that and I can inspire some other people to do the same thing.
That why is what I love to ask people because that's what drives you. And it's so important. So a couple other questions I had. Is the are you is there what's the word I'm looking for? Do you find have you had a couple of questions where people ask you anything of not getting into who's in office right now, or some things that have how about this surprised you possibly that you didn't expect as you've gone out listening, or have you been pretty much asked questions you already expected kind of coming in?
Well, look, I mean, I think running against a 16-year incumbent, right? And you we listened a lot to a lot of people before we said we were going to do this, right? And we announced when we did, but being out on the trail and having announced for 7 weeks now, the support and the following and the momentum that we've built, I have not went anywhere where somebody kind of poo-pooed on my parade and said, you don't have a chance. Everybody supported us. We've our Facebook growing or our Facebook following has grown substantially. Our Instagram following has grown substantially. And really everybody that we've had events and being out in the community, everybody says they're rooting for us and plan to vote for us, right? So it's I think that's the biggest thing is knowing that I've tried to be a good member of the community and work hard for so many years. And now that I took this step out of the shadow and said, I'll run for office, to see the support, that's honestly been the most humbling but surprising part of all this.
To brag on you a little bit, I know you get an amazing wife, Sarah, and then two great kids, but you also volunteer a lot. And yeah, I know you're Weinstein Black. You guys get back to the community a lot. I mean, so all that seems to be very important to you. And I mean, you kind of touched on it earlier, but that's something you've been doing, right?
Yeah, I mean, public service is what my family has done for years. I mean, my wife and I, you mentioned it earlier, we coached a travel softball team for 13 years. And we didn't even have a kid on the team, and
That's awesome.
we helped 20 young ladies have the opportunity to go play college softball. In fact, we finished that season this summer, and my wife was like, "Oh, what are we gonna do?" And about a month later, I said, "I think I'm going to run for office." And she's like, "I'm going to kill you."
That's
So,
funny.
I always seem to find, she told me not long ago, I was the problem. I always find something for us to do. And I think she might be right, but, it's awesome to support people in the community. And I think, you know, something that's important to me is, when I was in law enforcement, I didn't make a lot of money and I didn't have a lot of resources. We were young and trying to raise babies and diapers and formula and all of that. And I think, we've been so blessed to have success at Weinstein and Black to be able to give back to the community and do those things now. is really important to my heart, because I remember the times and the days when I couldn't give anything, right? I could just give my time. And so, as time is a commodity, but also a lot of these organizations and these community groups need other resources and funds, and we're super blessed to be able to do that.
And just before we forget, we'll do it again before we sign off with another question or so. But I know you mentioned I actually am personally following you, or I don't really follow much of anything. So I'm on the Facebook Jason Black page. It has grown a lot. I'm careful when I do that. But what are we want to mention Weinstein Black too. So what are some websites we want to make sure people go back and listen to the show? We get people to connect with you, connect with the firm, whatever.
Yeah, so our website is www.wblegal.net. And then we have a Weinstein and Black Facebook page that people can follow along. And then my campaign websites and social media, my social media is at Vote Jason Black, and that's for Instagram and Facebook. And my campaign website is votejasonblack.org.
Great question there. But Dave back there, he shows you the genius of his marketing, branding, and keeping it all up. All right, so vote Jason Black on Facebook and Instagram for the election. I've seen it over the years. I always forget. WB? What do you say?
Legal.net. Yep.
All right, I've seen it. Long-term memory. All right, so kind of as we're coming to the end here, I want we got what election is? What do you say? May.
Primary will be in May. Yeah, the election will be November of 2026, but the primary is in May.
Getting this out early, and you may see us come back with a later one, but we want to get this out early. So kind of as we close right now, at this stage, for people that are going to listen to this in podcast form, people that are going to listen to this through the video show, what do you kind of want to leave them with as of, November 2025, as we're going into the holidays, and what you're striving to do more and more of, with the ultimate goal, obviously, winning an election?
I think the biggest thing I would ask people to do is follow along with us and watch us. And I told somebody not long ago that the difference between me and the guy I'm running against is I can't be outworked. And I think I've shown the last 7 weeks that we're out in the community and we're doing the things that we need to be doing and spending time with the constituents of the district. And I want people to watch and see who's really out with the citizens. And, what I will tell you is, if you follow along with me, I don't take any job lightly that I do. I advocate for people every day in my professional life. But also running for office, I'm wanting to advocate for them down at the state capitol, and I take that seriously. So following along and watching what we're willing to do, I'm going to show everybody that's going to vote for me that I'm willing to do the job and put the time in and do what needs to be done to be a successful senator for them.
We need more Jason Blacks of the world. That's about as well said as I could be. And
I appreciate that.
But man, I'm in your corner, and I wanted to share you with our different audiences because it's a community connection show across many different communities. So I want to thank you. I know you're a busy guy, but just wanted you to appreciate you carving out some time for us, and then we'll get this out through all the channels.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, Ryan.
You're welcome. All right, Jason, we'll talk to you soon. Folks, you've been listening to another Community Connection show with Ryan Sauers. Special guest Jason Black with us today. We are going to close out now, and we will see you again next time.
This has been the Community Connection Show with Ryan Sauers. Stay on the lookout for new or past shows with community leaders wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you want to see the video interview of any show, visit communityconnectionstv.com. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we will see you next time.